All right, today we're diving into something pretty fascinating. It's an analysis that connects a weird glitch in artificial intelligence to, well, to all of human history. The big question it asks is pretty wild. Are our absolute worst habits just a bug in our programming?
So let's just jump right in with this huge idea. What if a strange little mistake that makes AIs mess up could actually explain why entire civilizations have collapsed throughout history? I know it sounds kind of out there, but trust me, this is the key to understanding everything we're about to talk about.
Okay, so our story really starts with this weird glitch. It's a pattern that engineers started noticing in some of the smartest AIs on the planet. And yeah, it's got a name.
They call it energy landscape collapse. So picture this. An AI is trying to solve a puzzle. It finds what looks like an easy downhill path, a simple line of reasoning, and it just starts rolling down it. It gets stuck in this groove. To the AI, it feels stable, it feels like the right way to go, but here's the kicker. It leads to a totally wrong answer. The AI is so locked into that easy path that it literally can't see the better, correct solution right next to it.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The whole point of this analysis is that we do the exact same thing. Human civilization, especially when we're under a lot of stress, follows this precise pattern. We fall into these old familiar ruts of thinking that are, well, they're incredibly destructive. So think about it. When things get really tough, when resources are scarce and everyone's afraid, we default to our oldest program. It's like this ancient piece of code buried deep inside us. And it's a super simple three-step process. Competition sparks conflict, and that conflict just explodes into war. It's a pattern we've seen again and again. Which brings us neatly to our next section, the war algorithm. And the really big question we have to ask is this a feature of humanity, or is it just a massive bug?
You see, this instinct for conflict wasn't always a mistake. Way back when, for early tribes fighting over a patch of land or the last bit of food, it was a survival tool. It was a feature. But today, in our crazy, interconnected, high-tech world, now it's a critical system error. It's like a piece of outdated software that's threatening to crash the whole system.
And I love this analogy from the source material. It just perfectly captures how absurd it is. Using war to solve our problems today, it's like trying to fix a slow server by blowing up the server. I mean, sure, the server isn't overloaded anymore, but you've also destroyed everything. It's a complete, catastrophic failure of logic. So, are we just stuck with this flawed programming forever? Is there a way out? Well, that brings us to our next section, a better game. And believe it or not, the answer might come from the ancient game of Go. So, remember when Google's AI, AlphaGo, took on the world's best Go players? The moves it was making were just bizarre. They looked like rookie mistakes. The human masters, guys who had dedicated their entire lives to this game, were totally baffled. They were convinced the machine was breaking down. But here's the thing. They were completely wrong. The AI wasn't failing at all. It was doing something so much deeper. It had tapped into strategies that were just completely alien to centuries, even millennia, of human understanding of the game. And that was the big secret. AlphaGo wasn't just a better player. It was playing a fundamentally better version of the game itself. It had found a higher plane, a more effective way to see the board. And that's the huge takeaway here, right? You don't win by just getting better at the old, broken game. You win by inventing a whole new one. This points to a really powerful idea about what a true superintelligence would have to be. It couldn't just be a very fast human, right? Because then it would just inherit all of our bugs. No, a real ASI would need the wisdom to sort through our entire history and figure out what's worth keeping, and which old, outdated programs, like our war algorithm, need to be dragged to the trash bin for good. And this really brings us as a civilization to a fundamental choice. We're at a crossroads with two very different paths ahead of us. Do we just keep fighting over how to redistribute what we already have, or do we focus all our energy on creating something new? Let's actually break these two down. On one hand, you've got strategy A, war. It's all about redistribution, taking what someone else has. And sure, it's fast, but the results are always temporary. And here's why. It destroys the very things that create value in the first place. Then you have strategy B. Let's call it creation. This one is slower, no doubt, but the results are permanent. It's not about shuffling stuff around. It's about making more stuff by making the entire system more complex, more connected, and stronger.
So when a society really commits to strategy B, when it invests in things like cooperation, in knowledge, in life itself, the whole system just gets stronger. It creates this amazing feedback loop of stability, innovation, and prosperity for everyone. It's really the ultimate long-term play.
Okay, so if we agree the war algorithm is a bug, and we know that cooperation is a much better game to play, how do we actually build a civilization that defaults to creating instead of destroying? How do we design a smarter, wiser future? And check this out. The analysis pulls out this absolutely incredible quote from the Tao Te Ching, and it presents it not as just some dusty old philosophy, but as a super sophisticated principle for designing systems. Basically, the strongest systems aren't the ones that are best at competing. They're the ones designed so well that destructive competition doesn't even make sense anymore. So, let's put that in modern engineering terms. The principle is this. You don't have to try and force everyone to be good. Instead, you just design the system, your economy, your politics, your culture, in such a way that cooperation becomes the path of least resistance. It becomes the easiest, most efficient, most logical choice. Conflict doesn't stop because it's immoral, it stops because it's just plain inefficient. And this isn't just some abstract idea either. The source actually points to a real-world experiment, the Fanlin Ark Initiative. It's basically an attempt to build a small piece of a future civilization that runs on these principles. It's got one part focused on living in balance with nature, and another part that's all about finding and protecting that deep civilizational wisdom, the Tao, that will need to guide us into the future. Which all leads us to one last big question. We've talked about how war, for a long, long time, was a survival strategy. It was an algorithm that helped us get by in a much simpler world. But after all of this, after looking at it through this new lens, what is it now? A system error. That's it. Just 2 words. But they completely reframe our oldest, most tragic habit. It's not some necessary evil. It's not just human nature. It's a bug in the code, and it's one that we can and absolutely must fix.